Hi, thanks for coming on. Andy speaking. Friday, 1st of September, just coming up 5:30. Looking ahead to the weekend. 1st of September goes so quick, doesn't it? Right, let's get into it. We'll start as ever with the most important, and that's Scotland. Right, onto the Scottish Premiership then. Before we start, just a couple of things I just want to point out here. I put it in the members' email tonight. You've got Rangers, Aberdeen, Hearts, all at home, all value. Now, if you're going to back any of those, just a note of caution. All of those have played in Europe this week, so the European hangover will be in effect, I'm sure. As I did say to you last week about Hearts' record after Europe, but look, to be fair, Hearts, Aberdeen, I think have both got winnable games. Rangers, I'm not sure on Rangers and Celtic as yet. I'm not overly impressed with Celtic. Last week, 16-1 on, didn't beat St Johnstone. Ridiculous, wasn't it? I mean, I spoke to somebody that works in the bookmaking industry on Monday or Tuesday this week, and they had an absolutely fantastic weekend with Arsenal not winning, Celtic not winning. 16's on, absolutely incredible. But as I say, that's just a note of caution. I don't want to put anybody off, because I say they're all rated to win. They've all got value in them. I mean, if Rangers hadn't played the other night in Eindhoven, I'd be all over this, because I'm not convinced by Celtic at all. There's 0.25 in it. I mean, Rangers are certain to be up for the game. That's what you can say. But as I say, it's just a note of caution. I'm just not 100% sure. I'm not going to chance them, but don't let me put you off. That's all I'm saying. Right, Kilmarnock Ross 60-24-16. Killy, just one game at home this season, beaten Rangers, haven't they? I think they've started okay. I mean, I said plenty of times I like Derek McInnes. A 0-0 draw at Hearts, and then defeat at Motherwell by the odd goal. I think that's sort of mid-ish table form, if you like. Ross beat St Johnstone, got a stuffing at Celtic, lost at home to Rangers. Killy should win. Livingston St Mirren 38-24-38. Tough game to assess this. I mean, I do like St Mirren. I backed them a few times last season. We did. I think we backed them the other week, didn't we, when they won? I mean, they've scored a minimum of 2 goals in every game this season, against Hibs, Dundee and Aberdeen. Livingston's always a tough nut to crack, especially at home. They've won away at Hibs 3-2, got a 4-0 drubbed at Rangers, drew 0-0 at home to Aberdeen. And that's what I say. It's a tricky one. I don't know what to make of Livingston. St Johnstone Dundee 39-24-37. Another game I don't want any involvement in. St Johnstone have failed to score so far this season. Incredible, isn't it? They lose at home to Hearts, lose away at Ross, and then get a point at Celtic. Incredible. Dundee, they beat Hearts, drawn with Motherwell, lost at St Mirren. I think they got the best form of the two, but it's just not a game to play in. I've touched on this one a bit slightly already. As I say, if I had to have a bet, it would be Rangers. I think Rangers will win. But as I say, it's that European hangover. Scottish sides, in my experience, it's just the squad size, and they're just not good enough, to deal with Europe and then come back and play. But as I say, if Rangers weren't in Europe, hadn't played in Europe, I'd be all over it. Same can be said for the other team, Aberdeen against Hibs. I'd be all over this. I'm not convinced by either of them, I have to say. You can look at Aberdeen's form and crab it and think, 2 draws and a loss. But again, you've got to scratch your surface. A 3-1 home defeat against Celtic, there's no shame in that. A 0-0 at Livingston and a 2-2 at St Mirren. And as you know, St Mirren, well, if you don't know, but they currently sit second in the table. I think that's pretty strong form from the Dons. Hibs, I've gone on about for years, is a soft underbelly. I mean, they've 3 games, lost every one, all by the odd goal, but they've shipped 8 times in those games. I just don't. I'm not a fan of Hibernian. I wouldn't ever trust them. I'm not a fan of trusting Aberdeen either. But as I say, if I had to have a bet in this game, it would be Aberdeen. Hearts Motherwell 50, 26, 24. Exactly the same as what I've just said about those other 2 games applies here. We were on them first game of the season when they won at St Johnstone. 0-0 against Killie, and then a defeat at Dundee. 0-0 at home to Killie isn't the worst because we know McInnes can play. And a defeat at Dundee on the back of a tough European night maybe isn't so bad. Motherwell have started well. A draw at Dundee and then 2 home wins against Hibs and Killie. I don't know. I don't give a lot of credit to that, but you can't knock a team that's won. But as I say, I wouldn't want to put you off Rangers, Aberdeen or Hearts. All 3 should win. It's just the European factor in play, and that is what my issue is. Let's go on to the Championship. Right, Championship, Arbroath Air, 38, 25, 37. I was speaking to someone about Arbroath today. I don't know if you know, there's a good friend of mine that lives in Bournemouth. Her brother is a director at Arbroath, and I mean, they're cock-a-hoop about that result last week. But you know, let me just say, you again, you look at the form of Arbroath and you think they've played 4 games, they've lost 3, won 1. But the defeats at home to Dundee United, and they've lost twice to Queen's Park. You could argue they're the best 2 sides in the league. I don't think they are. I think probably Dundee United and Wraith are. Maybe Partick, but Queen's Park certainly are up there. So I don't think we can knock Arbroath too much. But to go away and win 3-0 at Morton last week was, I didn't see that one coming. You know, the ton had turned over Ayr and only gone down by the odd goal at Wraith before that Arbroath game. So I didn't know what to make of that, really. If I had to have a bet here, it would be Arbroath, but there's not enough in it. Dundee United Airdrie 60, 24, 16. They've not won at home yet, have they, Dundee United? I don't think Ayr are great. The 1-1 draw with Dunfermline puts me off Dundee United. I did say last week on the video, I said I don't think, you know, we can knock it too much because Dunfermline might be all right. But then Dunfermline went and lost at home to Wraith last week. But again, Wraith might be okay, so it's difficult to weigh that form up. But look, Airdrie, what do I think of them? They've beaten Partick and Inverness at home, lost to Dunfermline on the road. I think Dundee United will win. It's a smidge in it as well. Inverness, Dunfermline, I couldn't split these. I would have been with Dunfermline had it not been for last week. Inverness, I'm not impressed with. I had high hopes. I thought when I assessed them before the season started, I quite liked the look of it. I did. We had 2 bets on the outrights, Inverness and Partick, only 1 point because I just thought Dundee United will win this division. There was precious little point in backing anybody because I did think Dundee United will win it, and I still do think they'll win it. But I just thought there was a smidge in Inverness and Partick on the outrights, but they started poorly. Defeats at home to Queen's Park, away at Airdrie and away at Ayr. I mean, if I had to play this tomorrow, I would obviously be with Dunfermline. There's half a point in it at 37%. I mean, that obviously that would have been in the 40s had that result last week not happened. Morton Partick 35, 25, 40. As I say, they got turned over at home. They got a spanking at home last week, Morton, by Arbroath. I didn't see that coming. Partick have played once on the road. They lost to Airdrie. Prior to that, they've drawn at home to Wraith 2-2, and they beat Queen's Park last week. I think that form's pretty decent. Morton beat Ayr and have lost to Wraith and Arbroath. There's nothing to get involved with in this game. If I had to bet, it would be Partick. Wraith Queen's Park 50, 26, 24. I quite like the look of Wraith Rovers this season. I probably didn't give enough credit to that 2-2 draw at Partick on week 1. They then beat Morton 3-2. But I think a 1-0 win away at Dunfermline, I think was quite a decent result. I really do. I'll tell you one of the couple of things I've liked about Wraith this season. They were 2 down at half-time to Partick, fought back to 2-2. Morton, they were 2-0 up. Morton got it back to 2-2. Wraith went and won. Then last week they scored in the 36th minute and saw it out. When I see teams sort of that sort of makeup, you think, oh, I like that. There's a bit of fight about them. As I say, I've been quite taken with their performances. Queen's Park are top of the table. It's a question of how much you rate the win away at Inverness and the 2 victories over Arbroath home and away. And then last week they were turned over 3-1 at Partick, and that has probably been their first serious game. So I think this is another serious game for them tomorrow, Queen's Park. Look, my gut feeling with Queen's Park, I don't think they're a team which is going to challenge for the title. I might be wrong. I might be doing them a complete disservice, but I just don't think they're as good as 2 or 3 others in this division. But there we go. Let's go on to League One. Right, on to League One. Alloa Cove 27-25-48. We were Cove last week. I was disappointed with that defeat at home to Queen of the South. They lost first game to Hamilton, who are top of the league. Fair enough. I think Hamilton are the best side in the division. We're on them on the outrights. I think they're the best side. They then drew 2-2 at home to Falkirk, who, for my money, are probably the second best side in the division. They won away at Montrose, and then they faced Queen of the South. Queen of the South, I think, are probably the 3rd or 4th best in this league. But I felt the value was with Cove last week, and they lost, so I was a bit disappointed with that. They play Alloa tomorrow, a 7th. Alloa have won 1 game, that was away at Queen of the South. They've lost at home to Stirling and Falkirk and lost away at Kelty. I don't trust Alloa. When they were first relegated into this division a few seasons ago, I really did think that they bounced straight back. I thought, because they really did make a real decent fist of it in the Championship, and I quite liked them. And when they come down, I thought they'll be a team that fights and gets, but they haven't. They've shipped 10 goals in 4 games. Cove, I mean, if we take the table at face value, Hamilton, Falkirk, Queen of the South is a top 3, and Cove have lost to Queen of the South and Hamilton and drawn with Falkirk, and they won their other game, didn't they? Cove against Montrose. You could say, look at it literally, oh yeah, Cove are the 4th best team in the division, which is probably true. I certainly think they are, because I think Edinburgh and Annan are in trouble. Montrose, I know there's problems there. Then you've got Kelty, Alloa, then Stirling. I don't see Stirling challenging. I do think Cove are probably the first. But anyway, rather than waffle on, there's 0.3 in it at 48%. It's whether you think that's value or not. Edinburgh Falkirk 10-24-66. Only 1 winner I can see here. 4 games played for Edinburgh. They've lost them all. They're showing the form that I expected them to show at the beginning of last season. They had a good season last season, but I don't think it's going to happen this time around. Falkirk are never one to have too much faith in on the road, but they stuffed Alloa 4-1 last week, and their other away performance was a 2-2 draw against Cove. And if you look at that line of form, Cove drew 2-2 at Falkirk. They got a 4-1 doing by Falkirk. So again, as I just mentioned to you, that bet looks quite decent on the surface. Falkirk will win, there's nothing in them. Kelty Annan 55-25-20. Half a point in Annan, no interest as far as I'm concerned. They lost the first 3 games, shipped 9 goals, scored 2. They beat Edinburgh last week 3-2. So another game where they've shipped twice. I think, as I said, I think they're going to be in bottom two, along with Edinburgh, possibly Montrose, unless they get their act together. Kelty have won 2, lost 2. They've won at Montrose and beaten Alloa, lost at home to Hamilton and away at Stirling. I think Kelty will win. There's nothing in the price. Queen of the South, Montrose, 60, 24, 16. They've won the last 3. Lost at home to Alloa first game. First game you can always overlook sometimes, well, most of the time. They then won at Edinburgh, Annan at home 3-1, away at Cove 2-1. Was really impressed with a 2-1 win at Cove, and obviously that has boosted that figure. That's 0.09 in Queen of the South. I think they'll win. As I say, from what I know about Montrose, things aren't tickety-boo. The next 2 games coming up, he said to me yesterday, he felt were really crucial because they got Queen of the South away, where he said he doesn't expect anything. And then they've got Edinburgh and Stirling at home, Falkirk away and Alloa at home. The next 3 home games are games where Montrose, he said to me, they want to be taking 6 points from those next 3 home games. So we shall see on that. Sterling, but anyway, as far as that game's going, Queen of the South rated to win. There's a smidge of value in it. It's up to you. Sterling, Hamilton, 24, 26, 50. Hamilton ticking along nicely. Played 4, won 4, not conceded a goal. 2 games on the road, Kelty and Edinburgh, 2-0, 3-0. 2 home games, Cove and Montrose, 1-0 and 1-0. I don't think that form is overly strong. They've won every game. But as I say, I think you're dealing with 2 sides there in Edinburgh, Montrose, bottom 3, Kelty, bottom mid to middle, Cove, top probably at 4th. So Hamilton, they're going along nicely. I think this is quite a test tomorrow for them. I don't think they should be odds on. Let me just say, I think they should be evens. Stirling have won both home games to 0 against Edinburgh and Kelty. So again, probably not the best form. I expect Hamilton to win. But there's no value. Right, final part of Scotland then. Bonnyrigg, Scottish League 2. Bonnyrigg against Elgin, 52-26, 22. Don't know what to make of Bonnyrigg. Won both their away games at Clyde and Forfar, drawn to Dumbarton and Stranraer at home. Do you know, I was looking through League 2. You look through the betting in League 2, it's an absolute minefield. Do you know, last year we've not had the winner of League 2 for a couple of seasons, and that's how difficult it's become. Well, we could have had Kelty the year before, but I did say Kelty I thought would win it, them or Forfar, but they were no value. And obviously last year Stirling won it, and this year I just don't know what to make of it. I really don't. Everybody's beating each other. Elgin have played twice on the road. 0-0 draw at Forfar, a 2-1 defeat at Spartans. I don't know what to say. I think Bonnyrigg should win. They're rated to win. There's no value. Clyde, Forfar, again, I just found this a minefield game. Couldn't split them at all. 38-24, 38. I would not trust either of them. I would not trust Forfar one bit. First game of the season, they drew 0-0 at Steny, and I thought, yeah, fair enough, that's okay. But then a 0-0 draw at home to Elgin, that's not good form. 3-1 defeat at Dumbarton, you'd probably say fair enough, Dumbarton are a decent side. But to lose at home to Bonnyrigg 2-1 is not good enough. I couldn't trust them. And Clyde, they've lost 3 of their 4 games. Bonnyrigg, Peterhead and Stranraer have beaten them. They drew at Spartans first time out. It's a game to swerve. It's one of those, isn't it? It sort of lends itself to the draw, but it's up to you. Dumbarton East 5, 60, 24, 16. That performance last week by Dumbarton at Steny was not that I was there, so I can't say, and I don't know anybody directly that actually went to that game, but somebody I know who knows somebody was at that game. And he said that Dumbarton were sensational in the first half, but could have thrown it away in the second half, because they were 4-0 up at half time, and obviously they come out in the second half. I don't know how they came out in the second half, but probably, thinking this is over, and then I think Stenny got a penalty in the first sort of 10 minutes, and then it wasn't a backs to the wall job, and then Stenny scored late on. But had Stenny got another one sort of with half an hour to go, it would have been interesting. But anyway, Dumbarton, they should win this. They've won twice from 4, drawn the other 2. They're unbeaten. They've scored 9. East Fife, I just don't know what to think. I really don't. I looked through that squad. I thought they were massive value at 9 for the title. They still could win the title. It's so early, and this league is all over the place. But I just don't like the form. 3-0 against Peterhead, 2-0 against Stenny, 1-1 against Stranraer, 1-1 against Elgin. And that is awful form, I think. They 2-0 by Stenny, and look what Dumbarton done to Stenny last week. I can only see one winner here. Spartan Stenhouse, we are 50, 25, 25. I don't think Spartans should be odds on for this. They had a good win last week away at Peterhead. I didn't see that coming. I really didn't. And just a point on Spartans before I go deep into it. All out of the 4 matches, 3 of them have been 0-0 at half time. The other one, they were 1 down against Clyde at half time. So they've not been in front in any game so far this season, as I say, and 3 out of the 4 have been 0-0. So if you did want to back Spartans, I would probably be inclined to leave it half hour, because obviously this price will push out, and you could find it being a bit of value. That's always assuming that they're going to win. Stenny started off 0-0 draw against Forfar and Peterhead, 1-2-0 at East Fife, and I thought decent start to the season, because Peterhead I think are going to be a tough side this season. Then Dumbarton not routed them, went and beat them 4-2 last week, after they hadn't shipped a goal. So I don't know what to make of Stenhouse, as ever. I find him a real frustration. I wouldn't play in this game. If I was going to play in this game, as I just said to you, what I would do is I'd wait half an hour, something like that. These are bets I sometimes have. I'm not saying that it's the right thing to do, but I just think that. Excuse me, my phone's about to ring. Right, apologies. Sorry. There was somebody ringing me that I tried to call earlier. Anyway, so yeah, there's no value in that game. That's what I'm saying. But if you did want to bet, I would sort of give it half an hour, see what the score is, and if it's 0-0, then maybe it's worth a few quid on Spartans, providing the price has gone bigger than evens and you're getting some value. But as I say, they've not scored first half. But Stenny could be a bit knocked after that thumping last week by Dumbarton. Stranraer Peterhead 44, 25, 31. Always decent at home, Stranraer. I'm not overly struck on their form so far this season. I was gearing up. I thought we'd get a better price about Peterhead. Stranraer's 2 wins have been against Elgin and Clyde. Probably two of the worst 3 sides in the division. Their other 2 results have been 1-1 draws against East Fife and Bonnie Rig. I'm not convinced that's decent form at all. Peterhead have played twice on the road, won them both. 3-0 at East Fife, 2-1 at Clyde. He drew 0-0 with Stenny, lost at home to Spartans 1-0 last week. I did want to back Peterhead when I looked at the fixtures, but they didn't come out great on the ratings, and obviously there's no value in them. This wouldn't have bothered me if I was getting plenty of value. Do you know what I mean? But when I looked at this game and I saw Peterhead had won both, I thought, Peterhead probably going to come in at about 40%. And I thought, we might get 7-4, but they've come in at 31%, and we're getting 21-10. But I tell you now, if that was to drift, even 12-5, I might be tempted, because as I say, they've done nothing wrong on the road, Peterhead. But Stranraer's a tough nut to crack, isn't it? But That's it for Scotland, guys. Let's move on. Right, I'm going to cover League One and League Two this week. I'll run you through the Premiership. I'll give you my thoughts quickly. Okay. Luton West Ham tonight. I'd expect West Ham to win. The only thing I'll say, just one word of caution if you're going to back West Ham. They performed brilliantly against Brighton and Chelsea. Brighton had 80% possession, Chelsea had 72%, I think it was. So that tells me they're a decent counter-attacking side. They're not going to be able to play that way tonight at Luton. So just bear that in mind. I do think they'll win, West Ham, but just bear that in mind, please do. Sheffield United, Everton, two of the worst sides in the division for my money. I wouldn't want to bet with your money in a game like this. Everton nearly got ousted by Doncaster the other night in the Cup, who were bottom of League Two, so neither of these two are very good. Brentford, Bournemouth. I went to Bournemouth, Tottenham last week. Bournemouth are quite a decent footballing side. I'd expect Brentford to win just on that form line that Tottenham beat Bournemouth, Tottenham drew with Brentford. I think Brentford should win. I didn't think there was any value in the game at all, I have to say. Burnley, Tottenham. I think Spurs will win. As I say, saw them last week. I thought they looked a decent side. I really did. When they move the ball around quickly, it's very, very good to watch. And I just think that their problem is up front. I think the defence looked decent against Bournemouth. I think that midfield three looks top draw. But I think that Richarlison just gets too many had a lot of chances and misses. And you just can't do that. You can't do it at this level. You can't afford to carry someone in that part of the pitch. But I've been told today they're going to sign Brennan Johnson, so that might change things. But Richarlison, as I say, he had countless chances last week and didn't take any, so you can't keep doing that. I still think they'll win. Chelsea, Forest. Chelsea, I'd expect to win that. Man City, Fulham. City will win that. Although Fulham are a stubborn side, they held up Arsenal last week. Brighton, Newcastle, I wouldn't know where to tell you to put your money there. Although, as I did say to you last week, Brighton are going off far too short and they got flattened at home to West Ham. I'm not one of those people that subscribes to Brighton are this and Brighton are that, and what the media would have you believe. They're a good side. They're a good footballing side when they can bully sides. But West Ham sat back, picked them off. Newcastle, I don't know what to expect from Newcastle. I felt they were disappointing last week against Liverpool. You shouldn't be losing that game really from that position. Palace, Wolves. Don't know what to make of that really. I think Wolves were unlucky first time out against United. Certainly deserved something from that game. The goalkeeper should have gone as well, and Wolves should have had a penalty. So, theoretically they could be on six points. Wolves. I don't know what to make of Palace either. 2 goals in 3 games doesn't really inspire, does it? Liverpool, Villa, Sunday. I think everybody will think, oh yeah, this looks a good Liverpool look good things. I'm not so sure. I think defensively they look very, very ordinary. Liverpool, I have to say, and I think Van Dijk suspended, isn't he, for this game? And this Trent that everybody raves about, he's not a defender in a million years. But yeah, I wouldn't be rowing into Liverpool at a short price. They'll probably win, but both teams will score. I'd be sure of that. And Arsenal, Manchester United final game. I think Arsenal will win. I think he'll be fuming after that result against Fulham last week, because when you are a team that is going to challenge or trying to challenge, whatever you want to call it, for the league, and you can't put a team like Fulham away. It's games like that when the table's totted up at the end of the season, you can find yourself 2 or 3 points dropped, and where did we lose those points? And you look at Fulham at home, because you bet your life City will win, beat Fulham tomorrow. But I do expect Arsenal to beat Manchester United. I do think some of the criticism directed at Erik ten Hag is out of order. I have to say, I think some of this stuff I've been reading about and hearing about Manchester United, I think is just undeserved. I think the guy won you a cup last year, got you into the top 4, and I think if you'd have said to any United fan at the start of last season, this guy's going to get you top 4 and win you a cup, you'd just snap their hands off. But now he seems to be getting some abuse. I know my thoughts. I think that the signings are poor. Mason Mount, oh God. They've just signed a left back from Tottenham that Tottenham tried to sell all over Europe. I don't know what to make of it. I really don't. It's not inconceivable that they could be on 0 points really. Well, Manchester United. I don't think they'd be anywhere near top 4 yet. I looked at the betting today, and they're still favourites. Not favourites, but they're the 4th favourite to nick that. To get that 4th spot. I'm a million miles away from that. I really do think that, and like I say, that's my honest assessment of the Premiership. If I had to put you one bet here, I don't know. Liverpool and Aston Villa, both teams to score. I don't know what price it is, but I think that will happen. Right, let's get on with League One. Right, let's move on to League One. And apologies if anything I said there has upset anybody that supports a team in the Premiership, but I just say it how I see it. It's nothing personal to anybody. Blackpool Wigan, tough game to assess. 38, 24, 38. Undoubtedly, the value is with Wigan. I was quite... No, that's not the right word, is it? I quite liked Blackpool at the start of the season. Neil Critchley back. I thought they'd probably have a decent season. I thought they were a bit of a dark horse. I really did. They beat Burton 2-0 first time up, but since then they've not found the net. They've had 3-0 nils and a 3-0 beating against Lincoln. Tomorrow they face Wigan at home, who, for my money, had been performing like the best team in the division. They got beat at home to Barnsley last week. I didn't know what to make of that performance, but 4-0 win at Bolton, a 2-1 win at Derby. They're up to beating Blackpool tomorrow, no question. It's just a question of whether you think that there's enough in it at 38%, because it is a tough game to assess. But for God's sake, don't just look at the league table and see Wigan in 20th position, because they've been docked 8 points. So really they could be as high as second. That's what you've got to think about. Just don't look at the league table blind. I think Wigan will probably win this game tomorrow. If they put Bolton and Derby away on the road, they can put Blackpool away. Blackpool just, I don't know, can't score. Bolton Derby 42, 25, 33. Again, another funny side. 3-1 against Fleetwood, 3-0 against Lincoln, 4-0 stuffing against Wigan. I don't think that's the greatest form in the world from Bolton. I really don't. Lincoln are 4th. They're not the 4th best side in this division. Derby's another one, isn't it? Lost at home to Wigan, lost at home to Oxford. But the away form, 4-2 at Peterborough, 3-0 at Burton. I don't think the Burton result is great. But I think a 4-2 win at Posh is decent. I'd have to back Derby tomorrow if I was choosing between the two. I know Bolton are rated the highest, but I just think Derby have got slightly stronger form, particularly with that win at Peterborough. I don't think Bolton have got anything. Bolton have got anything there that is as good as that. And if you look at the the form line through Wigan, Derby come out on top of that as well. Not convinced with Bolton on this one. Bristol Rovers Lincoln 40-24-36. I think this is a tough game to assess. Lincoln are fourth, but I don't think it's, how can I say, it's not a false position because they are where they are on merit, but the teams they've played, Blackpool, Wycombe, Northampton, all in the bottom half. Shrewsbury 11th. They've played one team in the top 10, Bolton, and lost 3-0. I'm not saying Bristol Rovers are any great shakes because they're in the bottom area of the table, but I think I quite like the draw away at Portsmouth. I thought that was a really good performance first half from Bristol Rovers. Draw at home to Barnsley, one away at Charlton. Most likeliest winners, no value in the game. Burton Exeter 31-24, 45. Burton, I don't think, are great. 3-0 home defeat against Derby, 1-1 against Bolton. Lost at Shrewsbury and Blackpool. I don't think that's very good form at all. Exeter are second, which they're going along nicely. But again, the wins have come against Wycombe, Reading and Carlisle, all teams in the bottom half of the table. They played Portsmouth away and only lost that 1-0. That was a really good game, that was. I think they should be beating Burton. Carlisle Shrewsbury 38-24, 38. Tough one to assess. This one, Carlisle without a win. But I do think you've got to cut them a bit of slack. They're fourth from bottom. And you can look at it and say, oh, they're fourth from bottom. They've not won a game. They're not any good. But I think, look at who they've played. They've played Oxford away first, Exeter at home who were second, Port Vale away who were sixth. They've drawn at home to Wigan and at home to Fleetwood. The home draw against Wigan, and bear in mind where I said Wigan would be without the deduction, I think pretty decent form. So I don't think we can fairly assess Carlisle at the moment. Shrewsbury 11th. Now, they've won 3 games, and you know that looks good on the face of it. But the wins have been against Burton, Fleetwood, and Cheltenham, the bottom 3. They've lost to Lincoln and Stevenage, who are both in the top 5. I think it was a tough game to assess. As far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't have a bet. If I had to have a bet, it'd be Shrewsbury because the value's there. But it's a tough game to call. Charlton Fleetwood 50-26-24. Sacked the manager this week, Charlton. I thought it was a trifle unfair. I don't know what's gone on behind the scenes, but I think away at Oxford, away at Peterborough, they've lost. At home to Port Vale, they've lost. Their top class sides. They beat Orient 1-0. The only result you can say that wasn't great was the 2-1 loss at home to Bristol Rovers, but they are a funny side, as I've said already. I don't know. Maybe something else has gone on in the background, but all the 4 defeats have only been by the odd goal, and they've been against decent clubs. Fleetwood have got 1 point from 5 games. I think Charlton ought to be winning this. Cheltenham Barnsley 25-25, 50. Barnsley odds on, not for me. I think they're the most likeliest winners. The win at Wigan last week was impressive, I have to say. They've drawn at Bristol Rovers on the road. Still doesn't make them odds on for this, but Cheltenham for me are awful. I said at the start of the season, I think they're going to go down. They've got no one to score the goals. They've not scored a goal yet this season. They've lost 4 and drawn 1. Look, I think Barnsley will win. I just don't see them at odds on. It's up to you. Orient Stevenage 38-24, 38. Tough game to assess. 2 teams that came up. If I had to play, I'd play Orient, but there's nothing for me in here really. Stevenage have been okay on the road. Wins at Cambridge and Northampton. A 2-0 loss at Reading. Northampton Wycombe 40-25, 35. Northampton improved I was quite stuck on the 1-0 win over Peterborough. Lost their first 2 games against Stevenage and North Wigan, who are near the top, and drew with Lincoln, then beat Peterborough and Cheltenham. I don't think that's the worst form in the world. Wycombe I thought would be better than what we've seen. I don't think we can knock them too much. The defeats have been against Exeter and Lincoln, who are both in the top 4. They've beaten Bristol Rovers, Leyton Orient, drawn with Burton. It was one of those games I thought it lended itself to the draw. Oxford Port Vale 52-24. Oxford, I made them a shade of odds on 10-11. I don't think they should be as short as 4-5. I mean, they've started the season well, haven't they? They've beaten Carlisle, Charlton, wins away at Barnsley and Derby. A 2-0 loss at Cambridge was strange. And for that reason alone, I probably just wouldn't trust them. Port Vale got 7-0 morning at Barnsley, 0-0 at Blackpool, but did beat Charlton 3-2 on the road. I think Oxford will win. There's no value there. Final 2, Portsmouth Peterborough 42-25-33. I think both of these have been slightly disappointing, and I'll tell you where I've been disappointed with Portsmouth was Bristol Rovers at home, Cheltenham at home. 0-0 at home to Cheltenham is a bad result. 4-0 away at Orient, 0-0 at Stevenage. That's okay. I mean, they've only shipped 1 goal. That was first game of the season against Bristol Rovers. Posh, I'm sure, will test them. They just look like they're just started to go the wrong way, but I wouldn't be totally out of love with them just yet. I didn't like the 4-2 hiding at home to Derby or the 1-0 loss at Northampton. They need to get the wheels back in quick. Cambridge Reading. This game's live on Sky Monday night, which I think is fantastic. And hopefully we won't have to hear those idiots, Carragher and Neville, who I absolutely detest, by the way. And it's not because I don't like Liverpool or Manchester United. I just think they're a pair of clowns who have got their own agenda. What would I see in this game? Cambridge have started the season okay. Beat Oxford and Bristol Rovers at home. I think that's okay form. Lost at home to Stevenage. Stevenage are up there at the moment, aren't they? So you can't knock them. Reading, I just thought they'd started to get it together slightly by beating Cheltenham and Stevenage. And then they lost to Exeter, but Exeter are up there, so you couldn't knock it. I think it's a real tight game. I'm sure it'll be a good watch. Let's go on to League 2. Right, Tranmere Wrexham, 38-24-38. I couldn't split these. I thought it was a real tough call. Tranmere have won 1. That was against Harrogate 3-0. They've lost 4. But I think we've got to look at the opponents. MK Dons away, they're top. 2-1 away at Notts County, they're 4th. Home defeats to Barrow and Salford. So all 4 defeats from Tranmere have come against sides in the top 10. The win came against 17th placed Harrogate. So I don't think we can look at that form and think, oh, that's awful, because the defeats have been against sides which, did ought to be near the top. Wrexham, they've come back well from the opening loss, I have to say. They got a tank. It wasn't a tanking by MK Dons, was it? But I just don't like them defensively, and there's nothing anybody can say that's going to make me change my mind. I'm no fan of Phil Parkinson. I had concerns last season slightly on the road for them. But, I mean, look, their one defeat has been against the team at the top in MK Dons. 4-2 at home to Walsall, 5-5 at home to Swindon, draw at Barrow, draw at Wimbledon. I don't think that's the worst form in the world, because Swindon aren't a bad side. They're not a bad side, as I say. I know somebody who's a Swindon fan. I don't know. Tomorrow it's a tough one. It's one of those where, as I say, you can look at it and you can say, yeah, Tranmere will win this because they've only lost to the top sides. So this is an easier test, or should be. And you can look at Wrexham and you can say, well, Wrexham's form's outstanding. Their only loss has been against MK Dons, who are top. So it's one of those. If you wanted to make a case for Tranmere, you could. If you wanted to make a case for Wrexham, you could. Again, games like this, unless there's extraordinary amounts of value, I tend to sit out. If I had to bet, I would bet Tranmere. That is no reflection on Wrexham. That is purely a reflection on Wrexham's price. They should not be this short. That's awful. And this is what my problem's going to be with Wrexham this season. It's not them as a club. It's the fact that the bookmakers are not giving us any room with them. And I think it's wrong. Any result wouldn't surprise me anyway. Right, Crewe MK Dons 35, 25, 40. I don't think Crewe have done a lot wrong this season, if I'm honest. 3 games at home, 4-2 Newport, 2-2 Mansfield, 2-2 Walsall, 2-2 away at Swindon, who had that 5-all draw with Wrexham, 1-0 defeat at Bradford. I don't think that's the worst form in the world from Crewe. I think the prices are tad insulting. MK Dons, they're top of the table, MK Dons. They've not played a team above 13th. As much as I like them and I'm on them from the outrights, the wins have come against Wrexham, Tranmere, Colchester, Doncaster, all teams 16th or below, and I know it's early days. And they got a 2-1 beating at Crawley. They've got by far the best squad of these two. I wouldn't take 11-8. I think that's a shocker. Doncaster, Swindon, 29, 24, 47. I just said about Swindon, feedback I got them was good. 6-0 against Crawley last week. 2-2 Crewe, 5-5 Wrexham, 2-1 win over Forest Green. I mean, they found the net 15 times in 4 games, so they're scoring at nearly 4 times a game. So look, I mean, tomorrow you've got to say they're going to find the net a couple of times against Donny. And I mean, Doncaster is the form, not the form, but the teams they played is the polar opposite, as I just spoke about MK Dons. Whereas MK Dons played everyone at the bottom, Doncaster played everyone at the top. Doncaster played MK Dons who were top, Notts County who were 4th, Newport who were 6th, Mansfield who were 7th, and Harrogate who were 17th. It's the inability to have beaten Harrogate which niggles me. Swindon got a decent rating, and I think they're a decent price as well. Grimsby Gillingham 33, 24, 43. That I did not see coming last week. I did in, how can I say it? I didn't at the time, but I did afterwards. I didn't see 3-0, but when I back a side, and I did back Gillingham last week, I'll be honest, when I back a side and they don't win, I go back and I look and I look and I look, and a couple of things what struck me. Gillingham, they'd won all games, they won 4 games, all of them 1-0. I don't like that, because they're nervous wins, or that's what I sort of call them. I'm not saying they are, but that's what I sort of, they're nervous wins. And Colchester, if we dissected that form from Colchester, as I did after I'd had my losing bet on Gillingham, they lost at home to MK Dons, who were top. They lost at home to Wimbledon, who were 5th, and they lost away at Bradford City. Now, forget Bradford City league position. We know that Bradford City are a decent side. I don't know what goes on there. There's something not right, but they are a decent side. So if we looked at that Colchester form, going down by the odd goal to MK Dons and Bradford, against a nervous Gillingham who'd won 4 in a row, 1-0, you could see the potential for an upset. I'm not going to say that it was definitely going to happen, because I backed Gillingham, so I didn't expect it to happen, but you could have seen it, and that's all I'm saying. So when you do back a side and that you really do fancy to win and it loses, go back and have a look. I mean, yeah, there could be a load of red cards. Do you know what I mean? Team might not have one of its best players playing, etc. But go back and have a look, because there will be a reason as to why. And I just think that Gillingham had that nervous look about them. I don't like teams that win 1-0, 1-0, because there's an accident waiting to happen, and it happened last week. Hopefully that's it, and they can get back on the horse this week. They're away at Grimsby. Grimsby have done nothing wrong at home. They've beaten Salford, drawn with Mansfield, and drew with Wimbledon. That's pretty decent form. Their only loss has been away at Notts County. Gillingham's figure is obviously still very high. If Gillingham turn up, they'll win. Harrogate Barrow 38-25-37. Beaten Morecambe at home and lost to Forest Green. Harrogate Barrow on the road, they've won at Tranmere, lost to Stockport, drawn at Accrington. At home they beat Sutton. Their 2 wins against 2 teams in the bottom 4. They also drew with Wrexham at home. I don't know what to make of this game. It's a tough one. If I had to bet, well, I'd have to side with Barrow because there's value, but not a game for me. Nor is the next one. Mansfield Bradford 52-25-23, and the reason I say it's not for me, I'm not going to knock Mansfield. They've played 2 games at home, won them both, scored 3 goals each time. Away, they've drawn 3 games. So that's always one of those things I like. Win your home ones, draw your away ones, you won't be far away from the title, and that's absolutely true. I make them 10-11. They are 10-11. Bradford is 16-5. I think it's a massive price about Bradford. It isn't on my figures, but it is a massive price. But there's something wrong. There has to be something wrong there. I mean, the home form, 1-0 over Crewe, 2-1 against Colchester, a 1-0 defeat at Crawley, 3-0 at Morecambe. If I had to bet in this game, I would bet Mansfield. But I wouldn't be surprised if Bradford won. But again, it's one of those, isn't it? Like I say, every week, this sucks you in, doesn't it? You think, wow, that's a big price. Bradford are over 3-1. But I'd expect Mansfield to win. But it's a fantastic game. Hopefully that should be. You've got Nigel Clough and Mark Hughes, two former Premier League strikers. Morecambe Salford 38-24-38. Nothing of interest here. I just couldn't split these. There's a few of these this week. The next one as well. Morecambe's home form's been decent. Beaten Bradford, Walsall, drew in Notts County. They've done absolutely nothing wrong. They've lost both road games, 2-0 and 3-0 Morecambe. So they've done absolutely nothing wrong at home. Salford have beaten Forest Green and Tranmere, both in the bottom 5. Not fully convinced. And they did lose 2-0 at Grimsby. I'd have to side with Morecambe here, but it's not a game to be involved. Newport Wimbledon, again, 38-24. 3 wins from Newport. Sutton, Doncaster, the 2 bottom teams, away at Forest Green, 5th from bottom. They've lost to Accrington and Crewe. I don't think that's the worst form from Newport. Whereas Wimbledon, they're unbeaten completely. They've won at Sutton and Colchester and drew 0-0 at Grimsby. They've not shipped a goal on the road. You can make a case for both of these sides like you can in this match and this match up to a point. Notts County Accrington 52-26-22. Notts County should win. I make them 10-11. They're 4-6. They're not 4-6 shots. Again, they're 4th. All the wins have been against teams 15th or below. I'm not convinced. They beat Grimsby and Tranmere at home, and they're beating Doncaster away. Lost at Sutton, drawn at Morecambe. Not convinced. Accrington is no gimme, I'll tell you that. They lost away at Gillingham 1-0. Accrington won at Salford 2-1, beat Newport at home, beat Harrogate at home, drew with Barrow. I thought, yes, Notts County should be odds on, but they shouldn't be 4-6. There's half a point in Accrington. It's not enough in relation to the rating. I do think, it doesn't matter what I think. Stockport Crawley 52-25-28. I mean, that's just ridiculous, isn't it? Over 2 points in Crawley. Why should Stockport be 8-15? Stockport County have played 5 games this season. They've won 1, drawn 1, they've lost 3. They've beaten Barrow 1-0. 1-1 with Bradford. They've lost against Gillingham, Mansfield and Walsall. Yes, all the losses have only been by the odd goal, but I don't care about that. That isn't good enough. That does not make a team 15-8 on against a Crawley side. They've lost their last two, Crawley, yet they got a 6-0 stuffing off Swindon, lost 1-0 at home to Gillingham, but they beat MK Dons, didn't they? They beaten Bradford, drawn at Salford. There's no way in this world Crawley should be 11-2. I'm not saying they're going to win or anything like that, and that's something that really does grate on me when I say how much value there is in a team and it doesn't win, and people email me and say, you said that would win. I never said it win. I don't say that. I said there's great value in them, and there is great value in them, and I shall be having a bet on Crawley tomorrow. Whether it's a members bet or not, I'm not saying, but I shall be having a bet on Crawley tomorrow because there is cracking value in it. Sutton Forest Green 42-24-34. Sutton had that great win, didn't they, first time out against Notts County. They've lost the last four, but again, we have to look at this and, you know, Gillingham at home, 2nd. Wimbledon at home, 5th. Lost away at Newport, 6th. Lost away at Barrow, 9th. They've had some mightily tough games, Sutton. Tomorrow they face Forest Green, who themselves haven't had it easy. Away at Wimbledon, at home to Newport, Swindon and Salford, and their only win was a 1-0 victory at Harrogate. There's plenty of value in Forest Green. Sutton are rated to win. It's a tough game to assess, as is this one. Walsall Colchester 44-24-32. Walsall at home done nothing wrong. They've beaten Stockport and drawn with Grimsby. I think that's decent form. Colchester, as I said, I really went through them and analysed them. They've lost to MK Dons, Wimbledon and Bradford, 1-3-0 at Gillingham. They put up that same performance, so Gillingham, they'll win. There's nothing in them though. 0.1's just not enough. Right, we're coming up to an hour. Let's just very quickly, the weekly double, Arsenal and Ipswich, 1.92 a bet, good win. The weekly treble, Arsenal, Ipswich, Dundee United, 3.54 to 1 with Sky Bet. We need to start winning a couple of these. Finally, quick non-league. Right, National Leagues, quickly. Only 3 bets for us this week. I'll give you my thoughts quickly on Hartlepool and Havant. Hartlepool are at home to Wealdstone. I think we'll win. We were 2-0 up against Chesterfield on Monday. Threw that away. They came back strongly and beat us. But I do think we're definitely going to be in the mix this season based on that. Havant, I was at that game, done very well. They got Bath away. I was looking to back Bath, but I made Bath 11-10. That's what price Bath are. We're on Bath. One of the sides are on for the outright, so I think they're going to have a really decent season. They are at the moment. So National League, Solihull to beat Oxford City, 2 points, 20-23. Oxford City, the worst side. Solihull going well since they've dispensed with Neil Ardley. National League North, 2 bets here. Scunthorpe to beat Alfreton, 1 point at 11-10. I think that's a decent price for Scunthorpe, I really do. I think they're going to trot up in this league. They're going to lose a few games. They'll take their eye off the ball, then they'll come back and win a load. It's going to be like that all season. But as long as we're getting value, we've got to keep backing them, and we are. Brackley to beat Warrington, 1 point at 3-4 with Hills and Unibet. That's it, guys, for this week. Fingers crossed. I think we'll have a decent weekend. I really do. So that's it. Have a good one. Bye for now.